why don't you introduce yourself first, Lisa,
I'd be
and tell
happy
us a
to.
little bit about your background and so forth.
Sure. My name is Lisa Mazzarella, and I have been affiliated with WVIA for, it'll be 20 years next year. And it's hard to believe that time just went by so quickly, but most of that time was spent in the little fishbowl of the radio studio. About, 18 years of that has been in WVIA FM, and it's been fantastic. I enjoy doing my radio shift every day. But a couple of years ago, I was approached to do something that I thought I never would come to love as much as I do, and that is the Our Town project. The project basically talks a little bit about people and their respective towns, what they do, what there is to do, how special they are as a community, without focusing on any negativity. It's all highlighting some of the good and some of the wonderful aspects that your town happens to have, that you know about, that you see every single day. And as I mentioned, that if everyone is in accord and everybody is on board with this particular project, Jim Thorpe would be the 10th documentary that we are doing in this series called Our Town. And I was telling a few people before you all sat down that every town is different. Everybody has a different pulse, a different rhythm, a different feel as to what they feel their town should be like or what they want their town to depict. Coming into Jim Thorpe today, it is absolutely breathtakingly amazing. You live in a gorgeous place, but you already know that. But for somebody like me coming in from Scranton, it's like paradise, and I want to know more about it. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about after we had a little bite to eat. Talk about working together as a community. This is a very grassroots project where the people of the town are going to take ownership of this project. They will be responsible for the videotaping of the project. They will be responsible for telling the story of Jim Thorpe. We're going to take their video, their stories, and weave them into the tapestry called Our Town. And it's going to be broadcast on WVIA in December. I want to thank you for lots of reasons. First, you have a beautiful town, and a lot of you are very responsible for that. Nature has a great hand in it. You have the beautiful mountains and you have all this great natural wonder around you, but you are the individuals that make this town happen, that make it tick, that make it percolate, that make it bubble over, that make it boil over. And this is what we're trying to capture when we do an Our Town presentation for WVIA. For the last 2 years, I've been involved in a project that has grown much more than just a piece of work to me, much more than going to the office and having to do another interview. It's become very, very personal to me because I've had an opportunity to meet some phenomenal people over the last 2 years, the likes of whom I probably never would have met had I not accepted this Our Town producership. The project in and of itself is extremely grassroots. And what I mean by that is it's very, very basic, but it's probably the most effective marketing tool the area will ever know. And the reason why is because the people of the town will be responsible for not only telling the story of the town, but they're also going to be responsible for filming the content of the documentary. Now, I know that it sounds like an awesome task, and I know that it might even sound daunting to some people, and they may want to back away and say, "Oh, not me." Please say yes, because what's going to happen, this is a preliminary production meeting that we're having today to introduce you to a project which we hope you're going to embrace, which we hope the community is going to embrace. And ideally, after this meeting, if indeed everyone is in accord and you do want to continue with the process of Our Town, we will have a business meeting, and then we will have community sessions, which will be open to the general public. And at these community sessions, you're going to have people from all walks of life, different people with different vocations, different talents that are going to come to the fore out of curiosity to find out what is this Our Town all about. And when they find out that it is their responsibility to tell the story of Jim Thorpe their way, using their video cameras and their stories, they might want to jump on board. We're looking for between 15 to 20 volunteer videographer and storytellers to encapsulate all that Jim Thorpe has to offer. Congratulations on being designated one of the most beautiful places in America. But for lots of us in northeastern Pennsylvania, some of us never saw Jim Thorpe. We heard of you, We know of Jim Thorpe. We know that he's buried here. We also know that there's some discrepancy as to should he be here, should he be someplace else. We also know of the beautiful mansions and so forth, and that gorgeous opera house. You know, those are pinpoints, and those are little places of interest that Jim Thorpe has to offer. But the most rewarding thing that Jim Thorpe has to offer are the people that make this place happen. And that's what we want to try to center on, this grassroots day in the life of Jim Thorpe as seen through the eyes of the people who live and work here. Maybe some of the people that have very deep roots here. Maybe some people that have just come into Jim Thorpe. They're not chunkers, right? They're not. They've come in maybe from New York or Philadelphia, from a larger major metropolitan area, and decided they liked this European feel, this quiet, this having to be able to get up in the morning and see the mountains surrounding you, giving you a big bear hug each and every day. For those of you that say, yeah, it is beautiful, I mean, you know that already. But for somebody like me that just came in, to me it was mind-blowing. It really, really took my breath away, literally, as I was rounding in and coming on into Jim Thorpe. It was phenomenal to see. And you are so blessed and so fortunate to live here. But you already know that. You need to let other people know that. You need to let other people know why this place is so special, why its history is so rich, why its present is a good present, and why there's a little bit of flux here and there. And what is the future of Jim Thorpe? These are some of the questions that we're going to want answered in this documentary. And the only ones that are going to be able to provide us the answers are you. You. Through your stories, through your anecdotes, through your musings, through your observations, through your historical content, through some of the stories of your family, your grandfather or your great-grandfathers, old pictures, your pictures, the landscape. Everything about Jim Thorpe that you feel is special, we want to include it in this documentary. And ideally, when all is said and done, once this video footage is compiled, we could have enough footage for about a 3-hour documentary of Jim Thorpe. We have to kind of pare it down to 1 hour. So it just gives people a glimpse, a taste as to what they can expect when they take the road into Jim Thorpe, what they're going to find, who they're going to find, the characters of the town, the character of the town, the architecture of this place, stories that you know that I don't know, and I would love to know, and so many other people want to know. And after that's all taken care of and you've taken the video and I interview the volunteer videographers, we have a team at WVIA, our production team, who will edit the video and the interviews. And it's going to be turned into a tapestry of Jim Thorpe, a good representation, a good sampling of all of the people who live and call Jim Thorpe home. And that's what it's all about. It's a very, very warm and fuzzy kind of a feel that does not focus on any kind of a negative. It doesn't focus on any controversies, but it does focus on what you have to offer as a community and who you are as a community. You know, a lot of people say, I don't know what to contribute, or I'm so busy I don't know where to turn. It's either one extreme or the other, or then you have your middle of the roaders that don't know what to do. This project forces you to look inward at who you are as a people, who you are as a community, and where you were, who you are, and where you wish to go as a community. And that's so important. That's so important. It's important for you so that you know where everybody stands as far as opinions and so forth. It's important for the progress of the town, for future generations. I like to call this a little cornerstone that on this particular year, on this particular date, you made a difference. You were part of something historic in Jim Thorpe. As old as this building is, as old as those mansions happen to be, and as old as that train station happens to be, there were stories there years and years ago. Lives were lived in those homes, just like lives are lived in your home. And new life has been breathed into this beautiful place. That's history. And you're creating that little piece of history, that little cornerstone of history. What we're looking at is an air date of December 4th for this project to happen. So let me get into the nuts and bolts. How does it happen? First, we have a meeting like this. And if everybody is in accord and they wish to embrace the project, then we move on to the next section, which is a meeting of the business community. And this is where we try to rally the business support of Jim Thorpe, and we will bring, at the next meeting, we will bring our Director of Development and our underwriting representatives up here so they can introduce themselves to you. Ideally, I will tell you straight flat out, this will be used as a public television fundraiser first. So naturally, we are going to be garnering funds from hopefully a good number of sponsors in Jim Thorpe. How much do we need? $10,000 for it to be a success. $10,000. Now, that can come from various different places, various different ways too. Carbondale, we were alluding to Carbondale earlier. Carbondale was probably the town that set the Our Town project way above what it used to be. Carbondale was a sweet, quiet town that nobody really paid much attention to, but was the start of the Industrial Revolution in America. It started in Carbondale. And when I went up there and I approached them about this project, they said to me, we do not want to be known as Garbagedale anymore. The reason they were called Garbagedale was because there were remnants of the coal history. There were the comb heaps, the comb banks that used to have the mine fires. That 30% of their residential area had to be knocked down because of those mine fires. So they had their ups and their downs, but they were a town that was coming back. And they wanted people to know about that. They did not want to be known as Garbagedale. And I got to tell you, when we had the community meetings, there were almost 100 people that showed up with that same mantra. You can be the thing that we need to rise above what we're known as. So they all came. They all came with their ideas. They all took their videos. They brought old pictures. They brought in old scrapbooks, recipes that were 100 years old that the bakeries had, and we put it all together. And the end result was something that was monumental for Carbondale, something that was monumental for me, because I saw groups of people get together. I saw people work together. I saw people who I knew that they had maybe rifts, maybe they didn't like each other, maybe they had problems, whatever. They worked together and they created something beautiful. They created something to be proud of. It has its tangibles and it has its intangibles, this project. The tangibles, mentioned in your little folio there, it's going to bolster tourism. It's going to bolster your profile as a destination space. The intangibles are the things that you cannot measure. You cannot put a price tag on them. You cannot put a dollar sign or decimal point on them. The intangibles are the pride. The pride, that feeling of goodwill, that feeling of fellowship and stewardship that people are going to feel as this project is happening and when this project finishes. And it all culminates on December 4th, a premiere night, when we make the big splash on public television. And we devote 2 hours of primetime television to Jim Thorpe. And all of the people who were involved in the production of Our Town Jim Thorpe will come to the WVIA studios and celebrate their town on television. We will show the documentary. We hopefully will have some entertainment from Jim Thorpe that represents the sound of what Jim Thorpe is all about. Entertainment, usually a band, usually singers, whatever. The artistry in Jim Thorpe, the uniqueness of Jim Thorpe. And a lot of times too, if you have a really special bakery here, we have a ceremonial cake that the mayor cuts on television that was baked from a bakery in Jim Thorpe. Everything local, everything Jim Thorpe, everything you, it's all about you for those 2 hours. As it is a fundraiser, the people who are involved in the documentary are seen on television, and they take pledges from people who are calling in, as a television fundraiser does, a public television fundraiser does. But after it's been aired on WVIA 4 times, the project is then turned over to the community to be used as a resource, a tool, something to bolster, again, your profile. Whether it's as simple as refreshing your website, using maybe your little interview part of that documentary on your website. Maybe it is taking in all of the historical factors. An educator from here might want to do something on local history. and taking in all the local factors that were mentioned in the documentary and presenting them in a classroom. Perhaps allowing realtors an opportunity to show some beautiful property around here. New people coming on in, building, redoing an old structure, keeping its grandiose appearance but giving it a new life. There are a multitude of ways that this documentary can be used to your benefit. And for anybody that comes here and travels here, they're going to want to take a piece of Jim Thorpe home with them. And aside from their videos and their pictures, where they're standing by the train or standing by the mansion or going on a ghost tour, they could take you home with them too. Your stories, the good places to eat, the nice places to see, the things that you're not going to find on Wikipedia, the stuff that you're not going to see in a travel log, your stories, and why this place is special to you. And that's what our town is all about. I'd like to show you a little 2-minute presentation as to the frenzy on premiere night and how it all comes together. When right now it's very conceptual, but when everything comes together and the reality hits on premiere night, this is what it looks like.
WVIA gives you the chance to tell us what you like most about your town. No one knows your town better than you do. The people who live, work, and play in the beautiful and diverse communities of Pennsylvania. WVIA invites you to join us in creating the Our Town series. Our Town gives you the opportunity to tell us, in your own words and with your own cameras, what makes your hometown so special. Then you'll be the star of your very own live television event at the WVIA studios.
If you're from Berwick, then guess what? Tonight is your night.
The Central Susquehanna Community Foundation and the Berwick Health and Wellness Fund have been fantastic sponsors here for Our Town Berwick.
Berwick has so much to share, not only with the towns in the area right around Berwick, but really regionally across northeastern and central Pennsylvania.
Not only do we have human volunteers, but we've got a great Cinders here. She's got the phone, she's ready to go.
We had a few meetings, and you decided what was important that should be in this DVD.
I've got cake, I've got pledges, I've got names to read.
The beautiful area in the Endless Mountains called Tunkhannock. Another very important sponsor is Procter & Gamble. And with me today we have Alex Freed, who represents Procter & Gamble.
It's been a wonderful night, and thank you for all that WVI did to put this together.
I said, could you get to 200?
Gosh.
You're at 204.
Yes! That was awesome! You did a great job! Outstanding!
Are you kidding me?
You did it! You did it! Woo!
Join us for WVIA's Our Town.
The premiere night is the big splash, but it doesn't end there, because you know, especially with all this wonderful water and natural beauty around, you know that when you throw a rock in the water and it makes that big splash, there is the ripple effect. And depending upon how you wish to tell your stories and how many stories you wish to tell and how you want to approach this project, if indeed you wish to approach this project, that ripple effect will carry for a long, long time. And even though you say, I am proud of my area, I'm very proud of who we are as a people, when you complete something like this, it is a transformational feeling for the better. And I'm not just saying that to sound, you know, ethereal or to sound esoteric. It is true. I've seen it happen. I've felt it happen. I know what the outcome is going to be whenever I introduce an Our Town to a new town. I know exactly what's going to happen. And I can tell you this, the night of the premiere, when you're seated there and you're waiting to find out how you were represented and how everything was woven together, there's going to be a tremendous amount of trepidation. You're going to think, oh my gosh, were we represented well? I hope we didn't make a fool of ourselves. All these things are going to be racing in your head. And then you're going to see the first 5 minutes of that show, and all of a sudden shoulders are going to go down. You're going to breathe a sigh of relief. The phones are going to ring. People are going to say, oh my God, I see you on television. I can't believe what I'm seeing. What a great story this is. How well you guys did. How wonderfully you did. The ripple effect is this. that when the cake is cut, when the band leaves, when the cameras are down, and you go right back home to Jim Thorpe the next day, you're going to carry yourself with a renewed sense of pride. You will feel it. You'll see it in the faces of the people you meet every single day. Whether you go to the market, whether you go to the post office, whether you go down to the train station, they will know, they will see, they will feel what you're feeling, what you experienced, what you helped put together. There's going to be that fantastic sense of community. I have to come back to Carbondale because Carbondale did something extraordinarily unique. You know, we talked about $10,000 having to be the basic amount that we need to make a successful documentary. That's how it has to happen from the business community. Carbondale had a lot of little teeny mom and pop stores, and there was no way that we thought that they'd be able to, you know, help out financially that way. We were going to give it a try, and they said that they were going to give their best effort. There were about 4 little stores that had just opened up across the street from their little park, Carbondale's little park. And they call themselves, there was a jewelry store, an antique store, there was a bakery, and there was a flower shop. And so they pooled their ideas together, and they said, listen, why don't we throw $500 in a piece, and we can put an umbrella on this whole thing and call ourselves the Shops at Park Plaza. And that's how we'll brand ourselves. So they didn't go to the Chamber of Commerce with this. I mean, they all came up and, you know, they came up and they all agreed, the 5 businesses agreed, why don't we call ourselves the Shops at Park Plaza? And so they had a logo made and everything, and it was really quite nice, and all these little businesses were featured. I went to see them a month after the documentary. And when I went to visit each and every little shop, they told me that since the documentary aired, their business had tripled. Business was booming for them. So what I say to you is this, and what will be resonated by the people in the underwriting department, when you come on board as a business sponsor for this documentary, whether it's at $500, whether it's at $1,250 or $2,500, depending upon what you're able to afford, when you come on board, you will be guaranteed an increase in your business because you will have been profiled, you will have been seen, you will have been showcased, you allowed yourself to be seen. There are some businesses that say, I can't do it, I don't want to do it, I don't care. And then they wind up kicking themselves because they say, why didn't we do this? Because it not only appears on the documentary, but it's online. Your logo appears online. Your logo will be on the DVD. So it's always there. Your brand is always there. So from a marketing standpoint, it's a good and very economical way to get your name out there and keep it out there for a good long time. Again, for the morale part of it, there's no way that you can put a price tag on that. That is something that people feel that it carries with them for a long, long time. People in Danville, we had our first documentary done in Danville. That was our inaugural project. I still get calls from Danville and the mayor from Danville saying, oh God, what a wonderful time that was. Hey, it's our 2nd anniversary. Remember the time we were down there at the studio? We had a wonderful time at the premiere. They call me up and they remember their premiere nights. We did another one in Tioga County, which is from WVIA's studio, 3 hours up and 3 hours back. And so doing something in Tioga County was very risky because to the people in Tioga County, WVIA was perceptually number 3 as far as their PBS station was concerned. Because they had an Elmira station and they had WPSU, another big station. So when we came up and we did the project, they really weren't all that enthused about it. They didn't have that fire in their belly, but they did it. They got the job done. And then it was only after the premiere, when they saw the reaction from the people, when they saw the reaction from within the community on how they were getting along, on how they were able to not fight as much, how they were able to really agree, and how they, you know, were able to have a better sense of fellowship and community, that's when they called up and they said, now we got it. Now we realize. I hear from them all the time. I always keep in touch with my towns. I always do, to see how they're doing. And I love to go and I like to go and sponsor like the restaurants and so forth and go into the shops. To me, it's like a discovery, a personal discovery for me. But for the community at large, it's a discovery for them. For the 22 counties that WVIA serves, it's a discovery for them. Many people maybe have been here, but there are loads of people who have never, ever ventured into this beautiful paradise called Jim Thorpe. So again, you have lots of stories to tell, and it's just a matter of wanting to tell them. So I have proposed a timeline, and I'm just going to discuss it with you very briefly, because I know you have lots of things to do. As I mentioned, we need to have a business meeting. We have to have a meeting of the business community soon. And then we have to get our community meetings taken care of. So I was thinking that by, September 13th, we should have our first community meeting. The following Wednesday, like the 19th, have what we call our Whiteboard Session. That's the second community meeting. That Whiteboard Session is crucial for anybody who wants to be involved in this documentary, because at that session, that's when all of the subject matter will be decided upon as to what's going to be in the documentary. It's crucial. I had one lady call me up from Stroudsburg. We did Stroudsburg and East Stroudsburg. And she called me up and she chewed me out. She says, "You didn't do this, and you didn't do this, and you didn't do this, and you didn't do this." And I says, were you at the meeting? Well, she says, "No, but I was so hoping that such and such would speak on my behalf." I said, "Don't ever do that. If you have an idea, if you have something that you have to say, if you have a story to tell, don't expect anybody to tell your story. Show up. It would have been there if you were there. It would have been there if you were there." Ideally, what it all boils down to, the quality of your documentary is only as good as the people who wish to participate. If we don't feel that we have the participation, if we have lackluster participation, the end result is a lackluster documentary. If you have participation that's going to be enthusiastic, that's going to be inquisitive, that's going to be curious, that's going to be almost taking us as a sort of an adventure, a community adventure, your documentary is going to reflect it. It's going to reflect heart. It's going to reflect passion. It's going to reflect all of those wonderful intangibles that you can't put the price tag on, but every single person who tunes in that night will feel. They will feel where you're coming from. They will feel the pride. They will feel the stories that you have to say. And they're going to want to come to see you. They're going to want to come to visit you. And who knows, maybe they're going to want to come to stay. So that's what this project does. The big splash and the ripple effect. Marketing the area in the best possible and least expensive way by having the people of the town talk about the town. All the good points, all of the assets that people should see when they come into Jim Thorpe. Instead of fumbling through a book and saying, "Oh, what do I do?" Get the documentary. Listen to the lady with the butterfly shop. Come see me. Listen to the man who opened a shop across the street from this place. Come see me. Come see me. And I guarantee if they see you once, they will come back again and again, and they're going to bring their friends with them too. Now, Jim Thorpe is already known and has already gotten a Hallmark honor. And again, I've seen lots of people out there too. So every town is different. Every town's speed is different. Every town's vibe is different. Based on what you saw, based on what I was able to try to convey to you, what do you think? What are some of your thoughts? Or any questions, if you have any questions? The finished product is when people call up on a premiere night, and they will order a copy of the video or multiple copies of the video. After it's shown on public television, I will get producers' copies, and I will make sure that all points of history and interest here will get copies of them so they can sell them at different venues. If you have any festivals or fairs or anything that goes on in Jim Thorpe that is, where a lot of people show up, that's a nice little thing, a nice little memory for them to take home with them. So ideally, the first part, people will call in and they'll order the DVD. After it's been shown on our air and the 3-month grace period has expired, it's yours to do whatever you want, and I will make sure that you have your copies to sell. There are 22 counties that we serve, so you're talking about people in northeastern Pennsylvania, the central Susquehanna Valley, the Lehigh Valley, the Poconos, on the outskirts of New York and New Jersey. So a lot of eyes are going to be watching this. we can work with anything. We can work with anything. When we did the Carbondale documentary, there was a gentleman that gave me an old reel that was at least 70 years old, and we were able to extract some information from that reel. People, I say, can we use our cell phones? You can. I mean, you can. The quality of the cell phone, though, is a little bit grainy. I mean, if you have a video camera, all the better. But we will accept that too. We will accept that too. Also, we accept stills too, black and white photos, especially if there's a lot of history involved. Maybe the Historical Society would allow us to, if you could scan some important photographs and so forth. We incorporate the stills as well as the moving pictures to give it texture, to give it a good feel. So, and lots of times, a lot of things you already have already in the can, as far as I'm concerned. If there were special events happening at your shop, if there were special events that were happening in the community, in winter, spring, summer, and fall, I'm sure that many of you have captured that on video. You could submit that if you'd like. You can. So it doesn't have to be like, oh my goodness, we only have 4 weeks to collect our video. Take stock of what you have. Gee, I wonder what Jim Thorpe looks like in the winter. I don't know, because it's still summer. But maybe some of you do have something, Jim Thorpe dressed up for Christmas. The mansion's dressed up for Christmas. Or what about Easter time or Halloween, if you have a Halloween party? We were talking about the ghost tours before, and what do they look like? Are there any pictures of that? Things, snapshots, old photographs, anything, everything works. It's all woven together. What will happen if you decide to proceed with this project? What will happen will be the next meeting. I will come down with a gentleman by the name of Ron Przlowski, who is our Corporate Director of Underwriting, and Julie Williams, who is our Corporate Underwriting Representative. They will be the individuals that will be in Jim Thorpe the next couple of weeks, should you decide to do the project, to go around to the businesses, to talk about sponsorships. They will approach you, and if you're interested, wonderful. And if you're not interested, they understand that too. But when you see them, they are going to be explaining to you what I basically alluded to a little bit earlier about the different types of rates. What would you get for the certain rates, that kind of thing. And ideally, it's exposure. It's really good exposure for you. Well, ideally, when we have that $10,000, what usually happens is on a premiere night, we can raise, depending upon the enthusiasm of the people, we can go way over that. And it's wonderful. It's great. I mean, Carbondale was astounding. Carbondale did an astounding job because everybody was like cheering for Carbondale. They wanted to see this town succeed. It was almost like a love fest for Carbondale. It was incredible. We did the Stroudsburgs just recently. Stroudsburgs did not do well. As a matter of fact, during the mid-portion of the documentary, we usually have the tally board like you saw on television there. We took the numbers down because we did not want the people in that studio who worked really hard see that the calls were not coming in. We didn't want them to see that the numbers were not rising. So we knew, because we didn't have the participation from the community as strongly as we had hoped. That was the end result for the Stroudsburgs. Oh, no, absolutely no. I mean, if you are very active with the Rotary Club or any club, stories are stories. Stories are needed. So if you give, that's great. If you're able to participate financially, wonderful. But please, I'm hoping that you're going to participate with your story. When people say, when we have to put together a documentary, people get panicky because they think all of a sudden that they are individually responsible for putting together a documentary about the whole town. And that's not true. When we have our whiteboard session, that's the second community session, what we're going to do is take every idea that comes to us and put it on a big whiteboard. And then whoever is going to be in that audience that night, we're going to break you down in little groups. Say, for example, you were interested in doing a profile on nature and the butterflies. You've got the nature and the butterflies, and that's your piece of the puzzle. If somebody wanted to do something on service organizations, that's your piece of the puzzle. If somebody wanted to do something on the arts in Jim Thorpe, That's their piece of the puzzle. The architecture, that's your piece of the puzzle. So everything is broken down into little bits and pieces so that it's not overwhelming. The video is mailed to WVIA. We take a look at it, and a week after I take a look at it, I come back to you and I interview you. And we usually interview people at a historical place in the area. Something that has lots of outlets, something that won't blow fuses because we have lots of hot lights, but something that would be conducive and representative of the Jim Thorpe feel.